Hello.
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 My name is Rita K. Sanders. I'm a television editor on shows like The Magicians and You and Batwoman and The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
My name is Troy Takaki. I'm an editor. I cut television and features, and I've been working in the industry for about 30 years.
You don't look old enough to have worked in the industry for 30 years, but okay. I'll accept it.
In features, I do a lot of comedies and romantic comedies. I did Sweet Home Alabama and Hitch. I did 3 of the Wimpy Kid movies, Fool's Gold. In television, I worked on Devious Maids, Desperate Housewives. Go back in time, I was on Walker, Texas Ranger and Sequest. So I've kind of been all over the place, which is kind of fun, actually.
We met because we were staffing post-production for the first season of You, and Greg Berlanti was like, oh my God, I can't even believe it, but I think Troy might be available. So you and I have worked together for many, many years now. You and I met on season 1 of The Magicians. I dimly recall it as a whirlwind of episodes we had to fix in post.
It was a first season show. That's what happens on a first season show.
And then we reunited to have another first season show experience on You, and have been happily working together as much as possible for years. Okay, so the editor is the one who chops it up and makes it all.
Yeah, I take out the bad parts.
Or you sift through the gravel to find the bits of gold and you string them together.
Everything is theoretical until you get into the edit. It's theoretical when you're shooting it. You're not sure you got the coverage. You're not sure you got the performance. It's theoretical in your mind when you have an amazing script, but who knows if it can be delivered in production. In editing, someone has already made me the puzzle pieces. I pick the performances, I pick the takes, I pick the angles, and I make it flow, I make it realistic, I make it make sense, and I take all the pieces and put them together into a puzzle that makes a picture. An editor is a job to be in service to the showrunner's vision. I'm not cutting the show how Rita wants to cut the show. I'm cutting the show how Sera likes the show cut. I'm thinking about her taste in music. I'm thinking about what she thinks is cheesy, what I know about her aesthetic. And my job is to translate what I know and think you want into the edit. And then you come in and fix what I did.
I wouldn't say fix. I would say impose my will upon it.
Yes, but, as is your right.
You know, of all of the people that I work with in all these various capacities along the way as a producer, the editor has the power to completely change my life when I go in there. From, you know, when I've seen a director's cut that has me tearing my hair out, I go in, we talk about how to fix it, and life gets so much better so quickly as answers are presented. It feels like getting a straight shot of Prozac to be with a really skilled editor. There are definitely times in the making of a TV show where it feels intensely like you're in the trenches with your editor, that something isn't working in a cut. It is too late, or it is impossible for whatever reason to reshoot it. And you just have to take these ingredients and be ultra creative and slice and dice them and come up with something better than what you wrote in the script, because that's not working.
So editing is a very difficult job because, much like writing, you have to be completely self-motivated. It is long periods of intense concentration. If you are a little bit nerdy, you love problem solving, you love finding creative solutions, you crave the validation of people who are in charge of you, and you like to be alone, then you should be an editor.
I would like to say, a lot of the editors aren't actually introverts. We're just stuck in rooms, and people assume we are introverts because we're stuck in rooms and talk to only like 3 people in an entire day. You get them out to a social, and a lot of them actually talk quite a bit, and they're actually a lot of fun.
So I went to school in Austin, and then I stayed there and I edited for 8-ish years, totally freelance, chasing little tiny projects and editing feature documentaries. And it was fantastic, and I loved it, and it was artistically fulfilling, and I was never going to make more than $40,000 a year and pay for my own health insurance, and I was never going to retire. And ultimately, I was working 100 hours a week and working for $6 an hour. I decided to move to LA. I knew I wanted to be in scripted TV because that's what I loved. I moved here, did the same type of work. One day I was headed out. I'd just gotten here and I was going to a lot of like editor meetups and post-production groups and like trying to meet people and network. And my lovely roommate at the time said, "Why are you leaving? Why are you going to this thing? You're just going to meet other unemployed editors. Why would you waste your time?" And I was like, well, I'm wearing pants and I'm holding my car keys. I'm just going to go to this thing. I went to it. It was fine. It was lovely. And I met someone named Terry Kelly. Terry and I became friends. He was fantastic. We both loved editing. 5 years after that, he advocated for me to be his assistant editor on a pilot. On paper, I did not qualify. I had a ton of experience. I knew the tech stuff great. I'd been assistant editing on low-budget union feature films, but I didn't have the TV experience. And the producers said, we don't want to hire her. She doesn't have the experience. And Terry said, I want Rita to be my assistant, and I will take care of it. I will be responsible for her. It was a super hard pilot. I nailed it. It was great. He opened that door. He gave me that chance. And then 5 years after that, I said, Terry, you should go to the Magicians. And then you hired him. And then it was the circle of life.
I came to LA. I didn't know anybody. For the first 2 months, I didn't have any idea what I was doing. I didn't have any job prospects. When you know nobody, you know nobody. I graduated San Francisco State, and about 10 of us moved together. And a lot of us lived in the same houses. And what happened was some people got PA jobs. And when they got PA jobs, they literally would be like, get a call about another PA job. And I'm like, I'm not available, but my friend Troy is available. And that's how I got my first job. Literally, I was at my friend Dave's house, and he was not available, and he handed me the phone. Mm-hmm. And they're like, okay, well, I'm just going to take a chance on you, Troy. Can you come on Monday and be an office PA? It was a show called Amen. So I went and I was an office PA for 2 weeks. And then I got a job as a post PA on a show called DEA.
So if I want to become an editor, do I have to go to school for that?
The reason I am glad that I went to film school is because I met a lot of people who gave me jobs after film school. Mm-hmm. Film school was the start of a network that then got me work, that then expanded my network and kept me employed for the past 17 years.
We want to help people find their way to your cool job. Help me tell people how to do that.
Working on graduate thesis films or AFI films, that's free learning. Then absolutely 100% reach out to and meet as many people doing the job that you want to do. If you don't know what you want to do, absolutely try your hardest to get a job in the business, even if it's not exactly what you want to be doing. Because when you work in the industry, you meet people in the industry. Being professional and clear about what you would like to be doing and respectful about it towards the people around you. Always be trying to meet new people, always be networking. It's exhausting. You have to do it.
Realistically, if you want to be an editor, you have to move to LA or New York, preferably LA. And there are so many jobs here, it's ridiculous because right now, there's so much television in particular that it's like there's actually a lack of people to fill the jobs that are super high quality. Do not be afraid to reach out to people. The biggest thing is that a lot of people reach out to editors that are up here. What you really want to do is you want to reach out to PAs and assistant editors. You know, find 5 or 6 people that you can really dig into and really care about trying to meet with. Because the more targeted you are in your quest for those first few meetings, the better.
Potentially, as a young or a fresh writer to the business, the most important person you will interact with is the person who got you your water when you sat down, because you're just starting and they're an assistant now, but in 5 years, they're going to be really high up.
If you want to get into television post-production, television editing, you sort of have 2 paths. One is the indie path, which is the one I followed, and one is more of the studio system path. The indie path is you're cutting anything you can for any amount of money you can. You're getting really hardcore technical skills because you have to learn them on the job, and you're getting really hardcore hustling skills because you're trying to find little tiny jobs all the time. And then you try to take that experience and leverage that experience into assistant editing. That is one way to do it, which is like you grind out those skills on the street and you get your hours for the union, and then you try to transition into union assisting, and then you be a great assistant, and also you edit scenes for your editor and co-edit with your editor and try to move up to editor. So that's how I did it. You can also come in the LA studio post-production way on shows like ours. You could come in as a post-PA, which is driving around, picking up hard drives, getting coffee, getting lunches, filing paperwork. Not a glamorous job. You're paid a minimum wage. The great part about that is you are learning exactly how television post-production works. Mm-hmm. You're making friends with assistant editors. You're making friends with editors. You can ask to shadow them. You can ask them them to show you stuff throughout the whole season. If you really want to learn, those people can be your editorial film school. They can show you what you need to do just because you're in proximity to them and bringing them lunch.
Every once in a while, I'm talking to these college kids and some of them are like, I don't want to be assistant editor. I just want to be an editor. I'm like, you actually do want to be assistant editor. I feel like I could have been an assistant editor longer. I feel like I could have learned more from sitting behind other editors and getting more education on what an editor does and what a good editor does and how to put two cuts together. I don't know if you know this. I wrote a book. Everybody should read the book because it's much clearer in there. It's called Don't Miss Out on Any Avocado Milkshakes.
Wait, is it a how-to about this stuff?
It's pieces of advice from Troy Takaki about working as an editor. And of course, enjoying life. I'm going to spill the beans. You're not really supposed to know what the title Don't Miss Out on Any Avocado Milkshakes is about until about 2/3 of the way into the book. But I'm going to tell you anyway. When you're given an opportunity to do something, you do it because you don't want to miss out on some experience that might be one of your best experiences in the world. And you might want to do it over and over. You don't want to do it on the last day before you die or something like that.
Do you feel like part of your gig when you're mentoring is that you're also teaching your philosophy as an editor or your tips and tricks as an editor?
Yeah. I do both, honestly. So I talk a little bit more about my philosophies of life that I teach them. I don't know. You might have noticed sometimes they come in and they watch me cut dailies because I cut dailies in a relatively unusual way that's very sort of like shoot from the hip. Without a lot of analyzing. I just watch every single frame that was filmed and then just kind of assemble it in my mind and just put it out there pretty quick. Like Piper, who was my assistant, I would have her come in and I'd be like, okay, so I want you to watch this because I'm cutting a scene at a table. Tables are notoriously hard to cut because you're breaking the 180-degree rule all the time. Mm-hmm. So I would make her watch that several times. And then I heard years later that she was showing my friend Kelly, which is one of my mentees in my program, how to cut a table scene. And she's like, this is how Troy showed me how to cut it. So by me teaching people, they teach people.
I'm doing a little, not a dog leg, we're growing a new branch of the tree in talking to writers, and we're segueing into talking to creative professionals because I noticed a post from you on Facebook. You were responding to another post that went viral. So to recount this for the people, a young editor named Rita K posted a very simple question in a forum was it on Facebook?
It was on Facebook, yeah. So what happened initially was a Black editor said, I'd like to meet other Black editors. And then all of the white people lost their damn mind and said, all editors matter. That is the short version. The thread went completely batshit bananas. A lot of people were offering him support, bless them. Certain, mostly men, and all white were saying, this is illegal, this is discrimination, this is reverse racism, how dare you? They were posting, frankly, racist memes. And it just evolved into an absolute, mudslinging shit show where racists were standing up and saying, I deserve to be racist. And I'm entitled for you to hire me.
Because that thread was over 100,000 likes on Twitter when I saw it, that it had really pierced the consciousness, at least on social media. It was an interesting moment to just step back and be like, what is going on in post-production? There was a hugely wide range of responses, but among them, there were editors who are white men who reacted to this by calling it a form of racism.
Yeah, reverse racism is what they call it, which is actually just racism. The big argument from the white editors that were arguing that it was reverse racism is it okay to have a job posting at all that says that you are looking for women, or you're looking for Asians, or you're looking for Black editors? Is that okay? In the same way as could you say, I am looking for white male editors in a jobs posting? That's their argument, which I find a kind of silly argument. That becomes the discussion. The discussion is, yes, but white men represent the majority of the people, so trying to find them is easy. And first of all, the job posting didn't say we are hiring a Black editor. It was, I would like to have some more resumes. I would like to meet more Black editors.
It seems to me that editors are disproportionately white men.
I mean, from 2003 to probably 2013, I was almost always the only woman. And there was maybe 1 or 2 people of color of any type that had come through those editorial rooms in Texas and in LA. The problem is the people in the network of editors, historically speaking, have always been white men. And they have hired people who look like them. They've hired people who have similar life experience as them. They hired people who went to the same school as them.
This is kind of at the root of why post-production has looked the way it's looked for so many years, is because it's sort of a self-perpetuating cycle of the same people knowing the same people knowing the same people year on year on year.
It is an industry where 99% of your jobs you get from people you know and your friends. So it is great to reach out and say, can I get resumes of Black editors? Mm-hmm. It's another thing to become friends with Black editors.
So I noticed that you had posted and you basically were like, I am an editor. If you are interested in finding out how to become an editor, I am here for help and mentorship. Black editors, people of color, women, step to the front of the line with the express purpose of diversifying and making more inclusive the pool of editors that exists out there. I guess we should say that there is a producer who runs post-production. They run point on all of the hiring in that department. I have always met with every editor who works on every show I've been a part of because it's such a personal job. It really requires us to know that we communicate well and we have decent chemistry. I have found I frequently had to ask to see female candidates of color, or the pile would just be a massive pile of white dudes. And not because of any overt decision-making on the part of that producer, just because if you send feelers out for 15 great candidates who are available, that pile might come back to you with zero diversity of any kind.
If you just hire people based on a piece of paper, you're missing a lot of potential value that they could bring to the show. Your editor is your first audience member. We are filtering everything about putting that episode together through our own experience, through our own bigotry, preconceived notions, stereotypes. If you only have one type of person in editorial, it's only one type of filter. And when you're trying to tell stories that you really want a diverse audience of all kinds of people to enjoy and to connect to, having a variety of experiences in post-production is going to be so valuable. In the same way that having a variety of experiences in the writer room is so valuable.
You know, as more and more the shows I've been working on are like about stuff I care about, a lot of that, it's sensitive stuff. I remember one of the most difficult scenes you and I ever worked together on was a really graphic rape on The Magicians. And I feel like having women involved in cutting that, in our camera operator that day was a woman. I remember sitting next to her as she handheld the camera all day. Having women in many departments, having women working on that material, I think brought a different sensitivity to that. That didn't detract from the fact that a magic demonic thing was also happening, but I felt like we were handling that material more responsibly because everyone was really on the same page about why we were telling that story. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that in addition to being a really good editor, you also just kind of have this propensity to want to connect people and bring them together.
Oh, absolutely. 5.5 years ago was either the first or second year of Oscar So White. When that happened, I talked to another editor at ACE, American Cinema Editors, which is an honorary group of editors that you have to like apply to get in. Mm-hmm. And we said, we have to get more women and people of color in ACE. From what we can tell, about 25% of our organization was women and a really, really, really low percentage was people of color. We counted somewhere in the low 20s out of, depending on how you count them, either 450 or 600 members. So somewhere lower than 1%. And we said, good. So who do you know? And I said, I know one person. And she said, I know one person. Then I came up with an idea, which is we have to start a new committee at ACE. So we started a committee called the Diversity Mentorship Committee. Unlike most mentorship programs that are people that are just starting out, this was meant for editors and assistant editors that have been doing pretty well already. The point was to find these people and become friends with them and get them to become friends with each other and mentor each other. Now we have probably a few dozen more people of color in ACE, and we have hundreds now of new friends that we've made, and we mentor and we teach how to mentor. And I've started like 3 or 4 of these groups now, honestly, that are really based more on having fun and getting to know each other. And the work follows because of that. And it's not so much like, oh, let me teach you how to get a job. It's tell me about yourself and tell me about your life experiences. I also help on the internship program at ACE, which is for people just coming out of college, which is amazing. If anybody wants to be an editor, they should definitely look into it. Go to American Cinema Editors and try to find the internship program. Instead, I have this funny group called Book Club Without Books, where all we do is we hang out and have like, brunches and stuff like that. But, you get to know people and we learn about each other, which is also a lot of fun, because what is a better way to learn about different ethnicities and different people that you maybe didn't grow up around than to become friends with them and hang out with them? That is how I think this industry will change, even more than kind of trying to hunt down people and get their resumes, honestly.
We're white women working on a show. So it's kind of, I feel like our responsibility to sort of speak up from inside the room to say, how do we open the door for more people who don't look like us, who don't have the same experience as us? What we're looking for is a true diversity of experiences, life experiences, points of view, favorite movies, favorite editors, pet peeves, things that you're sensitive about, words that would trigger you, that then you can turn to the showrunner and be like, there's no way you would know this, but I really don't think that should come out of that character's mouth. That is worth a gajillion dollars when an editor is brave enough to turn around and say it to me, like, this is insensitive right now. So ask yourself if you're doing that on purpose.
Well, there was just a phrase you just said and all of that, which was open the door. Someday, my assistant editor, Erin, I'm going to lose her. Someday I will need to hire a new assistant editor. And when I do, I'm not going to hire someone because they're a woman, because they're a person of color, because they're non-binary. I am going to open the door to get as many of those people as possible into the room to interview with me and give them the chance to advocate for themselves and wow me and tell me why I should hire them. That door has been wide open for white men for a long time. And now it's my job to open it up to all types of other people and give them the same chance that the white men have had for so long. And it's not about specifically hiring someone because of their skin color. It's about giving them the same chance.
One of the most enraging things to me is this outdated and kind of frankly racist argument that people sometimes make, that people are getting an opportunity because of their race or because of their ethnicity or because of their sexuality, versus, do you know how much harder it is just to get in the door?
And the people who are complaining that we shouldn't hire someone because they're Black or because of their skin color, they are completely ignoring the fact that all of the white men that came before me were hired because of their skin color and gender, because they looked like and sounded like the people who were hiring them. It's an intentional ignorance to say, this is reverse racism because my feelings got hurt, versus there are institutions and systems set up in this country and also in this industry to keep people of color out.
It's very hard to explain the concept of white privilege to people. White people actually just start with an advantage over a lot of other ethnicities and races. And men just start with an advantage over women.
So I saw that thread when it was happening and I was like, this is bad. Click. And I just clicked away from it. And that is my privilege. And when I saw how it was devolving later, I really knew that was my privilege kicking in and that I needed to pay fucking attention to this.
There is a gatekeeper problem. So, we're explaining how people become editors because we want to see a more inclusive post-production. But if it is largely word of mouth, I have a friend, who did you work with on this other show kind of thing, then it is those particular editors in that viral thread, they got a lot of shit. And if their profiles were public, they're probably private now. But we need to look at showrunners. We need to look at post-producers, because if in our capacity as people who hire, if we're not saying, I want to see candidates who don't all look the same, who don't all have the same background, and here's what's important to me, so that you don't leave your post-producer to default to, do they have something on the resume that is exactly like the show you're working on now? If we're not doing that, we're not doing our part. So as these stories come to light, if you're talking about people who are all kind of at the same level of employment, you're not seeing the complete picture, It's like we have to go all the way up the tree, I think, to see things a little bit more fair and to see things a little less blocking in a self-perpetuating way of Black editors and editors of color. Then we have to change and improve our hiring practices, the questions that we ask, the people that we know. Starting with exactly what this original poster did, which is just say, hey, do I know any Black editors?
What editors can do specifically is editors are mostly responsible for hiring our assistant editors. The post producers also weigh in. Editors need to separate the piece of paper from the person. They need to bring in more diverse people to meet with, but also my assistant editor's job is to make my life easier. And I would love to just be able to pick someone who can read my mind and make my life easy every day. That would be great. But the fact is I have to communicate with my words to my assistant quite a bit about what I want and need. And what I can do is bring people on that might not have the exact type of experience that I need. And it might make my life a little bit harder if I have to train them a little more, if I have to explain a little more. I might have to just be at work a little bit longer to help them learn the job. But if I believe that they're going to be baller at it, if I believe they're going to be great, if I believe they've got the spirit and the ability, they just lack the actual information they need to know how to do it. It's what I can do is make sure they get that information. And when I see that they are lacking that information, what I want to do is just not discount that off the top. Without a Terry Kelly in your life, without someone to advocate for you to get that first big job, you cannot get into the first big job. And that is why mentorship is so important. I had incredible mentorship in Terry Kelly, and the kids need it. The new people need it. The young people need it. I want them to come into my fold. I want them to come into our fold, and they need advocates. Everyone needs an advocate to get your first job in post.
That speaks so highly of an editor when I see that kind of behavior, because it speaks to your understanding that you're the shit at your job, you're taking the long view, you're not adding to the problem, you're being part of the solution, not part of the problem. Right. But it's just like, okay, if we're going to just put a headline on it, that editor has swag. Everything we're talking about in making sure that door is open for more people, for more people of color, for more women, for more Black editors. All of this is simply put artistic value added as far as I'm concerned. Everything we're talking about is value added to the art. When we start to talk about the creative, it's just all upside. It's all
upside. It's all upside. Having more different views and more different people around you is, is absolutely upside.
What I want to say is to my fellow white editors, you have an opportunity to make every show you work on better by bringing a diversity of voices into the editing room. So please do it when you hire people, and do it next week, and do it next year, and do it in 10 years. This isn't a thing we're just going to do right now and then forget about. This is important that we change the landscape, because when we change the landscape, we make a better product. And when we make a better product, we get more money and we get to retire someday. So this is all for your own selfishness. Do it.
Not only is there no downside, what you're doing is improving the quality of the show that you make. Full stop. That shows are better when a bunch of qualified people who all didn't come from exactly the same place and time and age and don't always have exactly the same experience when they walk down the street. It just makes the show better.
It just makes the show better. And that's what we want. It benefits us all.
Thank you very much for doing this. I'm grateful that you agreed to do this. Your tone is so welcoming and optimistic, but not in an ungrounded way.
Most of the editors I know are optimistic, friendly, people that want to help other people. The outliers are the ones that are angry, honestly.